Do you still remember the first trade you ever made? Every time you place an order, you are learning more about yourself. How we view it defines who we are. Edward Thorpe, before the creation of the first global quantitative hedge fund, the world could not fathom that trading strategies could be executed automatically. James Simons, before the establishment of the Medallion Fund, people did not think that zeros and ones would get you far in the trading world. BingX, before the launch of crypto copy trading services, public opinion doubted the potential of ordinary investors to make a profit trading. Currently, over 3.2 million people are using copy trading services globally. BingX is still actively recruiting high-quality traders. Come build the future of social trading with us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good day, everyone. So welcome back to another BingX AMA session. Basically, today, the topic will be the future of 3D NFTs, exploring cross-chain creation and deployment. And today, we have with you guys co-founder and COO of Roguai, Brian Xu. Welcome, Brian Xu.
Hi, Disco. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here.
Yes. So basically, just give you guys a quick rundown, a little bit about what Roguai is, and Brian will basically give you guys an overview of what the company does and its prospects for the future. So basically, Roguai is a community-driven 3D NFT open world environment that basically allow users to create, trade, and interact with custom 3D NFT assets. And as we know, NFTs are right now one of the elements in the crypto space that is driving a lot of demand. It's becoming popular. There's a lot of, economic incentives from it, and it allows creators to really, become creative and use digital art as a platform to be creative. So, Brian, why don't you give us, an idea about what Roguai does and how is it changing the space, and, just give us a little background about the company.
Yeah, sure. So what Roguai is actually essentially is that it's a community-driven 3D NFT open world environment. And what does that entail is that communities will be able to join into the world, and then they will be able to dictate how the world actually look like. And also because we will be inviting indie game developers to come on board and really plant their game into our world. We could even have like seasons that have like maybe horror game genre and stuff that will actually change the world itself. So talking about the platform, or should I say the things that we're actually doing on the platform itself, we are including a AI generative 3D asset creation tool. And what it actually helps the users or even developers to do is that it's a very easy to use platform. At the tool itself, and then users could essentially use this tool, and then they could whip up like very customized 3D assets that they could play and utilize in our world. So that's just a very brief summary of what we are doing.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Thanks so much, Brian, because, you mentioned basically, the benefits that it offers artists and the designers. Can you tell us a little bit how AI is being integrated into, how do Roguai integrate AI, generative technology into this whole process? So it'll be interesting to know. Yeah.
Sure. So how we actually do it is that the 3D asset creator tool, at the base, we could actually manually design and customize 3D assets from our templates and part-based that is within our libraries. So users without any coding knowledge, they could jump on board. It's a very Lego-like and modular design philosophy. We have like a base design. It could be like maybe like a humanoid model, and then you could change out like t-shirts, the sneakers, and caps and the sorts. And how AI generative technology will actually help is that one, you could actually use words through 3D generation. And how it is that maybe you could just type a red vehicle with roof box. And then on the right in the UI, you actually see that you could actually pop up. And on top of that, we are also exploring image to 3D generation. So you could essentially maybe have like an art or maybe like a building, and you can just put it into the platform itself, and it will actually generate the 3D models accordingly. Adding on to that, how the AI could actually help in the Rogu or Roguverse is that we could essentially utilize like a chatbot. So it is like a virtual assistant. They could give you guidance and information about the space. So yeah, that's a bit about how AI could actually help Roguai.
It's interesting because you mentioned about chatbot, and there's a chat GTP now everybody is
Yeah.
using. So perhaps you can probably, I guess, think about ideas and how you can integrate something similar really to to make it also more user friendly for users, etc. But you also mentioned a very key element just now, which is quite interesting. It's called the Rogu verse. I would love you to tell me about that, because, and maybe tell us a little bit, like, because there's there's the metaverse, etc. But you have the Rogu verse, like, what does the Rogu verse does and what it brings to the table, and how is it different from the metaverse?
Yeah, sure. So you could view Roguverse as like the metaverse for Roguai. So I would say that it's actually built for general users, indie game creators, and as well as content creators as well. So first and foremost, what the general users could do is that because Roguverse is designed to be a highly immersive and interactive environment with a strong focus on storytelling and world building. So with the 3D asset creator tool, users could essentially create their playable characters or objects and utilize it within this world. So this is something that, of course, we do see that Sandbox and Decentraland have something similar, but for us, we are really going to allow more than just characters. It's going to be like buildings, it's going to be like vehicles and stuff to be customized. So that's one. The second part is that the more interesting part, I would say, is that indie game creators, they could come on board, and what they could do is that they could plant their game onto the Roguverse, and they can take advantage of the community-driven nature of the platform to reach new audiences and build a following. And how that works is that users, when they come into Roguverse, they could traverse the whole space itself, maybe find a building or an object, and they could enter this games itself. And it actually helps the game creators to foster the economy through our platform itself, and then they could maybe get feedbacks from community and to make the game better. And lastly, for content creators, what they could do is that similarly, they could use the asset creator tool. They could utilize that to showcase their work, and then they could reach a wider audience as well. And maybe, for instance, an artist who likes to create some maybe particular art, maybe towards like the horror genre, they could actually put it onto Roguverse, and then users could actually take a look at it, and it could be a very good marketing channel for them.
Damn, that sounds dope, actually. For real, like, actually listening to you, I'm actually imagining myself in the Roguverse, and it's interesting because the Roguverse sounds very interesting, and it certainly it creates a lot of benefits for users, and it's very interesting. And I would love to see in the future where you go with it, and how you can revolutionize this space with that. Like, that is really, really good. But what I would love to know though is, like, how do you, because one of the things that are being talked about recently is how do you maintain rules in the space, like, what are the rules that you come up with to manage there must be some rules, because the users are going to be using, how do we mitigate any use of abuse and the Roguverse?
Yeah. So because if we are talking about rules itself, because we're in like a decentralized space, we would like to provide the power back to the users themselves. That's one. But of course, like you mentioned, there might be malicious acts on the space itself. Maybe there might be people that are creating things that is inappropriate. So
Yeah.
what we could do is that we perhaps in this part in the very first stage of the project will take a more centralized approach in terms of like the team itself. We have like like game masters as well. We will be perhaps like walking around the space and to check out like what is the activities and stuff. And also because we have a back end to check out like what are the different creations as done by the users. That's one way that we could potentially stop any malicious acts. But in the future, what we wanted to do is perhaps utilize a more automated approach where we could utilize AI itself to actually detect all the different things that is happening, and potentially if there's anything that have happened in the space, the system will actually be able to either remove the content or even maybe remove some of the malicious acts that is potentially going to destroy some of the content in the space. So that's essentially how we're going to do it for ourselves.
Yeah, I like that idea. I like that idea, Brian. I think that's great because that's one of the concern, and if you can pitch that, to investors and how you maintain that, and people are so assured that it's safe, I think, man, you're gonna move mountains, yeah. And you
Thank you.
also mentioned 3D NFT assets, and this is, it seems to me that, because you mentioned that it's one of the kind, it comes from one of a kind 3D NFT assets, and I think that's your marketing, like, I guess the generator of your marketing there. So can you tell us a little bit more about these 3D NFT assets, and like how are they so different from the actual, traditional non-fungible token assets?
Yeah, sure. So, as we know, right now in the space, the NFTs has been so popularized as in terms of the PFP NFTs, which
Yeah,
usually are generated, or should I say, depicted in 2D. Of course, we do see like GIFs, even like MP4s, videos, and even like songs, MP3s, and the like. So, we have like great following of like Bored Apes, CryptoPunks, CryptoKitties. So
yeah,
those are more of the traditional, or should I say, the normal NFTs that we do see. So in terms of like the 3D NFTs, what it is that it's a three-dimensional digital asset that is represented in the form of NFTs. So in terms of the whole aspect itself, it it can actually take many forms, such as like 3D models, objects, characters. We could be even like UFOs. It could be like fighter jets. It could be buildings and stuff, and even like air environment as well. And it could be created using like various software tools,
yeah,
such as Blender, Maya. But of course, on Roguai itself, we have this asset creator tool that could actually cut time from this modeling systems, and then users can just pick and choose anything that they want to customize it. So that's a bit about on Roguai, how we can do the customization. So what I think is that free NFTs can make the whole sector or the space more appealing to a broader range of audience,
oh,
especially when these NFTs can be integrated into games and virtual worlds in the open metaverse. So I think 3D NFTs is going to be really, really huge after the 2D NFTs.
okay. So basically, because as I'm listening to you carefully, you mentioned, 3D will be more, NFTs will be more appealing, and you also mentioned, I think I heard you mentioning a little bit about, gamers adopting that into video games, etc. So I guess you're going towards gamify a little bit, and a little bit of how you can merge these 3D NFTs and how they can be integrated into gamify. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Because what do we see right now in the NFT space is that I think there is a requirement or there is a need for utility. So as we see that the whole NFT market were to go to the next stage, I would do see that NFT that is embedded with new or more utilities. Maybe these NFTs have like an aging effect to it. Maybe like if you were to mint an NFTs and maybe 30 days down the road, you will actually be patina like a watch and stuff like this. So utility itself to this NFTs have this gamification feature that will make it even more interesting for users and the space as well.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. But I'm interesting because there's so many companies, sorry, that are, trying to delve into this metaverse, this NFT space. And I'm just quite interested in know that how do you plan to maintain like competition? Because they're already the sandbox there. There's so many metaverse there. There's so many NFT projects, and stuff. So many. So how do you like? I guess how do you to maintain a competitive edge? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the huge things that we are going to do is in terms of R&D, we are going to try our best to integrate as many technologies as we can,
Perfect.
not to complicate things, but to simplify the whole user experience for our users. And why I say that is because usually Web2 users that is coming into Web3, there is a lot of complicated processes that they have to go through. They have to you have to create a wallet. And then let's say you want to utilize a 3D NFT. What you do is that you need to get someone to create your 3D NFTs on Blender and Maya. And then finally, you could just combine them together by minting them. And then you could use it in the world itself. So how we actually maintain this is that firstly, like I mentioned, we make a seamless user experience. Secondly, we make it easy for users to create such customized assets using our tools. And then what it is that our creator tool itself, it could potentially allow users to deploy to other worlds as well, which is something that we do see that it's a need in terms of interoperability. But in terms of like Sandbox and Decentraland, right now, they don't allow that. But what we are going to do is that perhaps you could create like a avatar, but you could utilize it in different games and virtual worlds as well. So that's a competitive edge that we have on other projects.
Perfect. Just splendid. Because and you really break it down so well for me and to understand, and for your audience to understand, and for those who are listening, because they want to know how you're going to stand out, and how you're going to use technology. Technology is a very important thing now, because in the space right now there is this whole, I don't know, divide between centralized and
Yeah,
decentralized corporations, and it's really, really interesting because no one is really talking about how you can really merge. Everyone is either on the left or the right. People are like, oh, I'm CFI, oh, I'm DeFi. And
yeah,
what I would like to know is how do you, because centralized institutions are basically under fire right now, because they have this fear of maybe they're bad actors in the space. And after the Luna and the FTX crash, as you would have known, basically, a lot of people are so fearful to trust institutions that operate centralized. So I just want to know is that, can you tell us like what are the decentralized elements? Basically, because I know you would have some centralized elements, but what are the decentralized elements? And do you plan to merge centralized and decentralized technologies or integrations or mechanisms, basically, to have a program where users have a platform where users can trust?
yeah. So I would maybe start off in terms of the decentralized approach on the platform itself.
Mhm.
So what we are going to allow users to do is that the game developers, because they're going to deploy their games on our platform,
Yeah.
and essentially because we understand that games, or should I say the GameFi space, it has this problem of they create play to earn, and then they have the focus towards the earning aspect. But then again, the gaming mechanics and the gameplay might not be that appealing to users. So what we are going to do is that we are going to do something like a cloud loan mechanics,
Yeah.
where users, or should I say the developers, will put on their game, and then maybe in the next 14 days, the developers will be able to use our platform to get their users or those users to try out their games. And then what it is that maybe after the 14 days, they will get the users to perhaps vote and maybe get their following through their games. And if that works, and then they gain a certain traction in terms of the crowd loan, and then this game will actually be able to stay on the platform itself. And it allows this competitiveness in terms of getting these developers to really develop a game that users want. And then secondly, it could really create community following for them, which is great for games. So that's one. And then secondly, in terms of decentralized approach, I think that as we are a narrative and a community driven world, we want to allow users to be able to dictate what they want to see in the world as well. For instance, now maybe you want to see a metropolitan city, but maybe you would like to see a tropical island next, something like that. You could actually allow users to do so. I think in terms of like maybe mixing up the centralized and the decentralized approach, it's maybe more centralized is like you mentioned about the malicious act just now. We will definitely in the early stage to get our own team to really try to brush up and to tidy up everything that's in the space to make sure that it doesn't affect the users and community as well. And then in terms of like maybe managing some of the back end and the infrastructure as well, I think that will still need to be centralized to ensure that everything runs well. So this is the approach that we're going to take for the project.
Perfect. Sounds good, man. You just basically hit the nail on the head. I love that idea. So I'm about to ask you an interesting question. Although I know the answer to it, I'll still ask you to it. But I just want
Sure.
to know, basically, do you agree that the NFT and the metaverse are the new frontiers, the new tech frontiers?
Well, I have to say because I'm an advocate for both technologies, and I think that it will be the next frontier. Why is it so? Is that because both of them they represent the emerging technologies. They are rapidly gaining popularity and have potentials to transform various industries. I think that what we could actually see recently or even for the last 2 years is that big brands like if you see like Nike, Coca-Cola, they're all
Yeah.
coming into the NFT and the metaverse space, right? And one of the big things that they are doing is that this is a new marketing avenue for them. They could reach wider audience. They don't have to go out and do physical events. It's
Yeah.
just on the digital space, and they could just reach out to everyone. And I think this is often said by many people that, or even like some of them as well, is that metaverse is the next evolution of internet. And what I would actually think that is going to be propelled by 3D NFTs because of the ownership of maybe your avatars, or you could even own a piece of the digital space in terms of like the buildings, the objects and stuff. So it's just going to be more than just gaming and entertainment, because we do see that even finance industries, they have like even like JP Morgan and the likes. They even have banks that have done like a space in the central land or like in the sandbox, and they are actually looking for the metaverse for growth opportunities, and then they would like to incorporate it even into their business model. So to sum up, I think 3D NFTs and metaverse will actually help this space for users to connect, interact, play, and create, and lastly, participate in such a decentralized economy with deeper societal implications.
Perfect. It's something that you said just now, because before, one of the biggest thing for creators, those who create art, is that a lot of them create, but it never really had a platform to really
Yeah,
showcase. It's always the popular guys who get it, or the ones who, have to be like really, really famous. And some people only get famous when they die years after. But then you have
yeah,
a generation who has not the traditional kind of art that they have with ideas, obviously, but they get now to use art and just to be creative, just to be innovative, just to come up with, just let their imagination fly. And that's what you want. You want to propel users or young people basically to be creative, to let them see what is in their minds, let them explore creative, obviously in a positive way, because you need to balance, yeah. And that's very important. But you mentioned ownership, which is a great thing. But I noticed with the whole notion of ownership of NFTs, one of the concerns I usually have, and maybe you can clarify this, for the audience and for me as well too, is that, like, based on copyright law, copyright, the intellectual property space, basically, the person who creates the NFT is basically the owner. And like there's some little like issues concerning, okay, who's the rightful owner? Does the platform is the platform the owner of the NFTs? They're providing mechanism for the person to create it there. Does the person own the NFTs? How do you make sure that that users are actually the owner uh of the NFT itself?
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe I could just relate this to perhaps what we are actually used to in the real world is that be it perhaps like a manufacturer of like a vehicle, let's say like it's like BMW or like Ferrari, they were to create a vehicle, maybe they will manufacture that vehicle. But the thing is that they are the ones who actually created the vehicle, and they have their branding on top as well. So technically, in terms of branding and everything, it's all owned by them. But me as a owner, I'll be able to purchase those vehicles and drive them. But then again, I gain ownership. But the thing is that it's undeniable that right now, this vehicle actually owned, it's a brand by a certain manufacturer. So in the space itself, in terms of IP as well, yes, maybe it's very difficult to know the branding. But then again, let's say for instance, like for instance, you own like a Bored Ape, and I know that the creator it's actually by Bored Ape themselves, but I'm just owning by purchasing them through marketplaces. So I think in this sense, right, the ownership itself could be one to mention about in such a way.
Yeah, I get that. It could mostly fall on the category of a license, rather than complete ownership. It could be like a license, granted when you purchase the NFTs, you actually own a license to the NFTs. Because if you apply, the traditional IP rules, that's how it usually works. And it's just interesting, interesting take that you have on it. And because I mean, it's like, creators also want to be protected as well. They always want to know. And it's funny because a lot of creators out there, some platforms, they do basically have on the in the terms and agreement that the ownership remains with the platform, basically. And a lot of people don't read the terms and the agreements of the platform, etc. But so far, you've really touched on a lot of things that really showed me that this project has a really bright future. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time, to
Thank
break
you.
down everything, because users like to know that they're certain. They like to know that they can trust. And actually, one more question before I go. I want to know, how do you maintain trust? Because trust is a big thing, for users. How do you assure users that they can trust Roguai?
Great. So I would think that how we could potentially gain trust from the users is that what we could do is that all the contents that we have, we really do mean them. And in terms of that, like in terms of like roadmaps and stuff, in terms of things that we are doing, we will need to update like the communities. And then again, how we do include and perhaps gain trust from them is that down the line of development of the whole platform, it's always great to really seek out feedbacks and improvements from the community. And we do see this in like games as well. They have like community test environments. They usually will have like Discord channels or even like forums to discuss about the games. And if the users will be able to have a say in a platform. And this is something that, and usually if the developers or the project owners take in all this feedbacks and make the whole platform better, this is something that is a trust that is huge for the community and for the project themselves. It's like you are giving a voice to these users, and it's just perfect for platforms. Sometimes you really need to have voices from the community, and it's for the betterment of the project itself.
Yeah, so true. Couldn't have said it better. Okay, so Brian, thank you so much. I
Thank you,
wish you the
Avisco.
best. Yeah, and thank you for having this AMA session with BingX. We're always glad to have projects like yourself that are looking to transform the space, looking to bring something new, looking to drive the the next big thing in the space. We need more innovation, and you're doing that. You're coming up with the concept of 3D NFTs, and you're trying to see how you can actually make it move from 2D into 3D. I think there's a lot of scope there. And I just wish you and your company the best, Brian. And thank you so much again for partnering with BingX on this AMA. And yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. You have yourself a great day, Brian.
Yeah, you too. Thank you, BingX, and thank you, Abisco, for having us. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
You're most welcome.
Yeah, thank you.